What's going on, Junkie Nation? Gorgeous George and Goes are back. Another MMA superstar is landing here on Junkie Radio. It's Phil Davis, former Bellator light heavyweight champion, former UFC title contender. What's up, Phil? How are you?
Hey, what's going on?
How often do you tell people I'm wonderful when they ask you how you're doing?
I catch myself, and it's kind of one of those things. I generally just say that, but then it just kind of sounds too on brand. So I have to tone it back to I'm good.
Gotcha. All right. I'm a little pissed off, and I'm going to tell you why. I don't
Uh-oh.
understand why Phil Davis isn't the main event. All respect to Borix, and his opponent, but you're Phil Davis. And I went back to look at the resume one more time just to make sure I wasn't talking out of my ass. But those skins you got on the wall speak for themselves, along with the fact that you're a former champ. Are you disappointed by that?
Not really. I've been fighting long enough to generally not care about things like that. I love my job wherever they put me on the card.
Okay. Now, the flip side would be, well, it's an extra 2 rounds because now we know Bellator's doing 5-round main events, even if they're not title fights. But the flip side of that, I believe, is you can ask for more money too. So with those extra 2 rounds, would they have been justified if they were willing to pay you more? Or do you stand by what you said earlier? Hey, look, wherever they place me, I'm good.
More money is always cool. I am down with more money. I stand by that statement. I'm cool wherever they place me. But
would the fact that you get paid more money to fight in a 5-round fight justify the extra 2 rounds that are kind of like wear and tear for your body, and possible damage, but you're not fighting for a title? So, do those even out? What are your thoughts on that?
yeah, I'm always down with more money. That's cool. But again, Bellator is a great company. They've been great to me, and I trust them. They do what they do, and they place me where they place me on the card. I really haven't had too many issues with that in the past. I always feel like I get my opportunity to shine, so I'm thankful.
If there's an MMA Hall of Fame one day and you get in it, would you want to go in as a Bellator fighter or a UFC fighter? I ask only because after your last fight, you now have 14 fights with Bellator versus the 13 you had with the UFC. I know it's kind of fictional or whatever. It's not like in pro football where the player has to decide, what team he wants to represent. But
wow, man, you really hit me with one there. That's a good question. That is a really good question. I've never thought of that. I think I'd rather go in as a Bellator fighter. I enjoy Bellator. I believe they take care of their fighters. I love the organization, and I also appreciated my time in UFC. I enjoyed my time there. I think Bellator does a lot of things right, and that's how I would like to be remembered.
What about your contract situation? Where do you stand? Could you ever go back? A lot of fighters have gone back and forth. Dan Henderson once, I think, went from UFC to Strikeforce and then back to the UFC. Do you have an open dialogue like that? Would you even explore that if you felt like your time at Bellator had run out?
As much as I enjoy Bellator, I don't think there necessarily has to be a hardcore like. This is my only brand. This is the only flag I'll ever fight under. But at the same time, I don't think that anything's necessarily broken or missing from where I am right now. And so I can't foresee that happening. But if it does, I'm not going to fight against that. I'm not going to say, no, well, Bellator is the only place I can ever fight again. I'm not going to stand in the way of that at all. But I'll be open to it and fluid to change. But right now, I'm happy where I'm at. You know what? It's funny you say that because I completely forgot Dan went from UFC Strikeforce then back into UFC.
Yeah.
And if I ever did that, I imagine I grab a couple more wins in that organization, and you and I would be having this same question again. Where would I go down in the Hall of Fame?
Maybe
That
for
was
now
fun.
you just go in with Penn State until you
There
can
we
figure
go.
out the answer that has to do with UFC Bellator. But here's why it's also valid. I guess I don't know if you tap danced around the contract question, or if you didn't want to answer it, or if you do want to answer. But here's why I think it's valid in
Yeah.
going over why I felt like it was a little bit of a disrespect that you weren't main event. I mean, it stands out. The fight against Glover Teixeira is a win in your favor. He is the current champ. So it's a valid question, I think, for us to ask about free agency.
Yeah.
Would you ever go back? Things like that.
No, there's questions that are off limits, and I don't think that was even close to it. I think that was right up in the alley of a great question. And not to mention, you have the current champion over there with I think that was a unanimous decision loss there. Man, I think about that sometimes, but right now the thing that is pressing me is I'm like, this Joker Nemkov is something else. He's tough and he got to win over me, and that doesn't sit well with me. I'm over here right now, and he is here, and I got to get this Joker or get the man to get him. So.
Well, it's good to have options, but
Yeah.
at the same time, you're also 37, and I wanted to ask you, I'm probably going to assume that you started, just to make it easy, wrestling at 7. So between wrestling and MMA, that's 30 years. How's your body holding up? Do you see even more fights where you could maybe get that Joker, and then if a possibility came up, go after Teixeira or one or both? I don't know what how much longer do you want to do this?
Right. Luckily, I started at 13.
Oh, okay.
I didn't think it was a blessing then, but wrestling against guys who did start at 5, did start at 7. So I got a few less miles on me. I honestly am, my thing as far as when I'm going to retire, I try to leave that up to my body, how I feel, and ultimately my passion. If my passion for the sport drops or begins to wane, I'm not going to stay in there for a paycheck. I'm gonna find another way to make a living. I'm not gonna try to compete in a sport where there's a possibility that someone wants to win more than me. So at this point, I'm right as rain, but I won't sacrifice my performance or my legacy or my brand just to stay in there as much as I can.
So, Phil, in this interview, we've kind of referenced titles, money. What would you say is your biggest motivation right now at this point in your career? Is it the titles? Is it money? What is it?
Well, I think the easier target would be the title. You get one, you get the other. But truthfully,
Yes.
it is definitely the title because I'm intrinsically motivated. I'm motivated by the opportunity to train my best, perform at my best, and showcase my best work every time I step in the cage. So, there's a reason why the highest paying guys are highest paying guys, because they show out. They do amazing things, and they're creative with their work, and they entertain. And that's what I want to strive to do, is continue to put on good performances and create new ways and new avenues to beat guys.
Fresh matchups, rematches. Which Phil Davis, like, is there a difference in that for you as far as when you get off the phone and you have your matchup? Which one kind of makes you happier?
I like fresh matchups. Rematches can be a little difficult. You look a lot back at you reference the first match, and it doesn't typically go that way. A lot of moving parts, and you're hoping that they stay the same, but they haven't. And so it's a very interesting thing. Fresh opponent, I love that. up and coming guy. I love that. I always remember what it feels like to be that guy getting a hold of someone who's higher ranked, or you're looking to advance your career based on where someone else is, and I use that as my motivation. Keeping that hunger.
Julius Anglickas will be looking to, I guess, kind of get one over on your name. That's I'm sure that's kind of a motivation as well. He's kind of basically trying to not steal, but step over you because you're Phil, Mr. Wonderful Davis, former Bellator champion with a lot of skins on his wall, like Gorgeous George just said earlier in the interview.
Right, absolutely. That's the name of the game. Is finding out how good you are, and once you're the champion, keeping that bad boy and proving how dominant you can be. And I'm standing in this man's way of becoming a champion. So that's the thing that gets me out. Is that this guy wants to make a name off you, and you my friend are going to disrupt that.
Just to close, man, let's go over this resume. It's really amazing. So, Lyoto Machida, Liam McGeary, King Mo, Emmanuel Newton, Glover Teixeira, Vinny Magalhaes won an M1 title, so I'm gonna throw his name in there.
Heck yeah!
And Brian Stan, all former champions or current champions of major belts in the sport of mixed martial arts. And we got to give love to Alex Gustafsson, Rogerio Nogueira, that's Little Nog, and even some of the other fighters that may have come up short, Linton Vassell, in their quest to win titles. Yoel Romero, silver medalist in wrestling.
I love him.
So that's quite an amazing resume, and I guess that's why I really was pushing back on Bellator a little bit. No disrespect to Burnell and Borix, but I thought Phil Davis should be the main event here.
Man, it's so. I truthfully don't go through that list and tell myself and really think back against some of those tough victories. I don't do that nearly enough. Hearing you say it, I was like, oh man, yeah, that was a tough fight.
You were feeling it, right?
Yeah, all those dudes are tough. All of those dudes are tough. Yeah, and man, I feel like I've done well. Just some to my credit, but mostly not. Just to the grace of God, I've been able to stay healthy. That is the name of the game in the fight game. Just being healthy enough to be in there and compete. And I've just been blessed to be able to be competing at the highest level for so long. And yeah, man, I'm thankful. Shout out to all those guys.
Yeah, hopefully George and Ghost fired you up for your workout here in a few minutes, and you'll go a little extra hard. But yeah, I mean that it speaks for itself. Hell, you beat a guy so not so bad, but so impressively that he relocated from Sweden to San Diego just to train with you and learn with you in Gusty. So that's respect there. He learned something that night. He was like, oh man, if you can't beat him, join him. And I know you guys were training partners for a while.
Oh man, that was one of the best things I can point to that happened to my entire fight career is training with Alexander Gustafsson, because he was going to be great all by himself, and it takes a lot of humility to say, I'm going to train with you. You just beat me, but I'm going to train with you. And it was crazy because we started talking backstage, and our coaches came over and they started talking. I think they were like, what are you guys doing? You're not going to fight, are you? And we were just kicking it, And so our coaches started talking. We all just having a good time, enjoying Abu Dhabi. And they're like, yeah, we should train together. I was like, oh, yeah, we should train together. Thinking it would never happen, actually. But, man, I probably gained more from Alexander Gustafsson than he got from me.
Oh, wow.
His shot defense and his offensive wrestling is really tough now, and I still feel like I gained more from him. He keeps his punches. Sometimes in basketball they say a guy's 6'7", but he plays like he's 7 foot. The guy has 82-inch reach, 83-inch reach, and he fights so much longer. He fights very long. You know, he has a super long jab, and he's constantly pumping it, and he has a very long uppercut. Probably one of the best uppercuts I've seen in the game. He's finished more than a couple of guys with it. The one that comes to mind is Glover Teixeira. Just a super long uppercut. From the range that I would say, don't do it. That's a bad option. That's a terrible idea. And he nails people with it over and over again. And so, man, just having a guy like that in the room that can do that, put that kind of danger in you, every training session, you learn so much. I mean, granted, that is a lesson that you learn the hard way, but that is the lesson I want to learn in practice. And I mean, I've gained just that alone so much. He has a very wiry kind of frame, not super strong, obviously strong, but not like your Anthony Rumble Johnsons of the world or your Yoel Romero. But very wiry, strong, and he has so few holes that in order just to get one over on him in training, you have to dig into your best bag of tricks to get stuff going, get some good positive momentum. So I anything he gained from me, you could have it, because I feel like I gained so much from him.
Did you ever go to Sweden to visit him?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. It was I went over. When did I go over? So we both fought in Sweden together twice, and I went back to Sweden to help him train, I think, for the Jones 2 card.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it feels like we're picking on poor Glover here, mentioning your win and then his win, but it's true, because the other day I was looking at Gusty's resume. His last 2 wins are Blachowicz and Teixeira, the last 2 champions in the UFC.
Yeah.
Now he's up at heavyweight. He's got Ben Rothwell coming up in May. So yeah, all the love to Teixeira. He's the man at 42. Pretty amazing what he's done. I'm sure you probably tip your hat to him as well.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's crazy to be to reach that point at any point in your career. You got to be tough, but to reach that point at 42, it's about managing your training correctly. You just can't go as hard as you could when you're 26, 27, 28. Man, shout out to him, man. He's still in there, getting high quality wins over high quality guys the hard way, knocking them out, TKO, submission. He's the man. He's the man.
Last question. This is back to wrestling. I held on to what you said. March Madness is coming up, right? And that's obviously the wrestling version of March Madness, the basketball tournament. Mm-hmm. You won that tournament, and I wanted to ask you, do you think anybody that hears this interview that they're taking their young kids to wrestling? I could see a dad going, wait a minute, my kid's 5 or 6 or 7. Why am I hauling them all over town and getting them this experience when this young man started at 13? Is there something to maybe maybe 13 is a better age than 5, 6, or 7, or are you an anomaly? Like, what would you say? And it really is a serious question. I know that there's not like head trauma or nothing, but still, the cutting of the weight, the winning and the losing and all that shit.
There's 2 things, but what I think that people have to be very aware of is the maturity of your child. And, a lot of times when you start a kid too early, it's not that they won't win. It's not that they won't get better. It's just that they could burn out. A lot of times you get a kid, and I've seen it both ways. You see a kid that is just setting the world on fire. And the bad thing is the psyche of that athlete is wrestling kind of came easy. It came so natural. And they don't understand that is an unusual amount of good. And life isn't going to be that easy. But wrestling is for you right now. And so it just kind of turns into this thing where they don't want to do it anymore because it's like, I'm good. I have fun. I have to work hard, but, I'm good at something. And so they kind of lose interest. And there's also the thing where, you can burn a kid out just by competition. Losing is not fun at any age, but also they can begin to get worn out just from the losses and the psychological damage of a loss. So you really just have to be aware that can happen both ways. Really just look at, just be, just be really involved with the kid in their sport, and make sure you stoke their passion. If they stop being as passionate about it, a good 6 months off, maybe you take a year off. It is not the end of the world. They can come back right back where they left off, and maybe the kids that they used to beat up on are really good now. That's fine. Your son can get really good again. Your daughter can get really good again. And you just have to keep that in mind. But what's most important is once they are not passionate about it, and especially wrestling. Wrestling, like fighting, is very demanding. Sometimes I feel like wrestling is more demanding on you than fighting, because fighting is not like 40 fights a year kind of sport. It's 3, 4, at best, maybe 5 if you're Cowboy Cerrone. But wrestling, you get 35, 40 matches. You got to make weight 20 times. That can be exhausting. That's exhausting just thinking about that. So you really got to make sure you just keep their passion intact. When they love the sport, you'll have to find a way to slow them down. When they don't love the sport and you're driving the train, they will get worn out much sooner than you want.
Wow, wise words from a former NC2A Division I champ and the former Bellator lightweight champ. Success in 2 sports, respect, man, and that was great, eloquently put too. Always
Thank
great to chat with you, Mr. Wonderful. In fact, dare I say that was wonderful what you just said towards the wrestling community. I think a lot of people should pay attention to that, because that was, like I say, you said burnout. I remember Johny Hendricks. He started since he was little, and towards the end, man, he said wrestling and MMA it really wore him out. Like, he doesn't even like to watch much MMA or whatever. But yeah, you're right. I've heard that before.
And Johny Hendricks, a perfect example. This man, when he came into MMA, he graduated ahead of me. I think I was already pretty deep in the UFC when he got going. And boom, he got on, and he just set the world on fire. And, man, he was knocking folk out, became the champion, had an amazing, probably all-time top 5 fight with GSP. And then, I think probably for him, he has done so much competing in his life. He's done so much competing at a high level, at a really high level. He was really good. Most of his competition, he's been really good. And I'm sure he's and it's not like a bad thing to be done. He can look back and say, hey, damn, I was the champ in wrestling. I was the champ in MMA. When I was on top, couldn't nobody fool with me. I'm good now.
Right.
Much shorter career, still awesome. But when he says enough is enough, and I think also partly because of injury as well. I know he had some injury in wrestling. Then I believe he hurt his knee. I think it was. He had surgery I think he was a title contender getting ready to fight, and he hurt his knee, and then came back, won title, a couple more title defenses, and then that was it.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Wonderful. Great talking to you. Can't wait to see your fight against Julius Anglickas March 12th on Showtime, 9 p.m. Eastern start time for that main card. Hope to talk to you again soon, bud.
Roger that. Thank you. Thank you guys for having me.